How do we find the true average cost of a home in our county without having to physically check the price of every single house on the market? Think about it. There are literally thousands of homes out there. Prices are fluctuating every single day, and frankly, nobody has the time to gather all that data. It's a massive, real-life problem.
So because it's completely impossible for us to check the price of every single house to find the exact true average, we have to rely on a subset of the data, right? We take a sample. But how do we know if our sample is actually a good representation of the whole county? How do we make a highly educated, mathematically backed guess that we can actually trust?
Well, by the end of this lecture, you'll understand the concept of confidence intervals, the mathematical formula behind them, and exactly how to apply this to real estate data using our OpenStax Stats Lab. We're going to break this down step by step so you can estimate massive, unknown numbers with absolute mathematical certainty.
Let's make this a bit easier with an analogy. Imagine you're trying to catch a specific, invisible fish, and that fish represents the true average home price in your county. Now, if you take your sample average and claim that it's the exact, perfect true average, it's kind of like throwing a single spear, and that's called a point estimate. And honestly, you're highly likely to miss. But if you use a confidence interval, you're tossing out a wide net. You might not know exactly where the fish is inside the net, but you can be highly confident you caught it.
Okay, let's really dive into this. That net we just cast is formally known as a confidence interval. It's basically an estimated range of values, an upper and a lower limit, calculated right from your sample data. And its entire purpose is that it's highly likely to include an unknown population parameter. In our case, that unknown parameter is the true average home price for the entire county.
Section 1. The housing market problem. Let's build this concept together using the real-world Stacks Lab from our OpenStax resource.
We start by opening up the local newspaper's real estate section, or, hopping online, and randomly selecting the sale prices of 35 recently listed homes in our county. This number, 35, is our sample size, and in statistics, we denote this with the lowercase letter n, so n equals 35.
With our 35 home prices gathered, we need to execute a few foundational steps to describe our data. Step 1, we find the average price of just our 35 homes. This is the sample mean, also known as X-bar. Second, we calculate how spread out those 35 home prices are. This is the sample standard deviation, denoted as S sub x. And finally, we define our random variable, capital X-bar, which simply represents the mean cost of a sample of 35 homes.
Section 2. Calculating the error bound. Now that we understand the basic idea and we have our sample mean, let's move to the mathematical formula that builds the actual interval.
To figure out the edges of our net, we take our sample mean, which sits perfectly in the exact middle of our net, and we mathematically add and subtract something called an error bound for a population mean, or EBM. You can just think of the EBM as your give or take number. For example, if your sample mean is $300,000 and your error bound is $20,000, well, you subtract that to get your lower limit of $280,000 and you add it to get your upper limit of $320,000. Simple as that.
Now let's visualize this on a probability distribution graph. If we decide we want a 90% confidence interval, we're basically saying we want the middle 90% of the probability graph. That leaves 10% completely outside our net. That leftover outside area, that's called alpha. And because our bell curve graph slopes down on both sides into two tails, we split that alpha right in half. So an alpha of 10% means there's 5%, or alpha over 2, sitting out there in each single tail.
Now, you might ask, and wait, pay close attention here because this is an incredibly common student confusion. Does a 90% confidence interval mean that 90% of the raw data we just collected from the newspaper falls into this specific price range? Like if we look at our 35 houses, will exactly 90% of them fit perfectly between our lower and upper limits?
The answer is absolutely not. If you go and count your 35 houses, they are not going to perfectly align to 90%. Why? Well, because the interval is hunting for the true overall average, not the prices of individual homes. Look, some homes are massive mansions, some are tiny shacks. The confidence interval doesn't care about capturing 90% of the varying individual homes, it only cares about capturing the invisible true average of the entire county.
So the absolutely crucial point here is how we interpret this when we write out our final lab results. We do not talk about individual houses. Instead, we state, we estimate with 90% confidence that the true average home cost in this county lies between our lower limit and our upper limit. we are 90% confident that our mathematical net has successfully trapped the true population mean.
Section 3. Changing the confidence level. Let's connect this back to our lab and explore a really fantastic what-if scenario.
Look at this trend. It brilliantly illustrates exactly what happens. If we take our exact same 35 homes, but we only want to be 50% confident, our error bound shrinks and our interval is very narrow. But watch what happens as we increase our demand for confidence, moving up to 80%, 95%, and finally 99%. Our error bound gets larger and the overall width of our confidence interval gets wider and wider.
Notice that distinct trend right there. Why exactly does the error bound, the EBM, and the physical width of the interval behave like that as we demand higher and higher confidence?
It actually makes perfect logical sense when you go back to our fishing analogy. If you absolutely, positively, 99% must catch that invisible fish, are you going to use a tiny little net? Of course not. To be more confident that you caught the true average, you simply have to cast a much wider net. You have to give yourself more room for error. Therefore, your give or take number, the error bound, just has to increase.
Section 4. Summary and key takeaways. Before we wrap up, let's quickly summarize the key points you need to master this real estate stats lab and ace your exams. Always remember to start with a truly random sample, just like our 35 randomly selected homes. Next, properly define your sample variables, finding your sample mean and standard deviation. Accurately identify your alpha and divide it equally for those two tails. Then, add and subtract your calculated error bound from your sample mean to establish your net. And finally, never forget the golden rule. Demanding higher confidence always requires a wider interval.
Now, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to really test your deep understanding of statistics. If an increase in confidence makes your interval wider, what if you wanted to be exactly 100% confident that your interval contained the true average home price? How wide would your net have to be? Think about it. It would literally have to stretch from $0 to infinity, because that's the absolute only way to be 100% certain. Ponder that mathematical reality for a bit, and I will see you in our next example.